Hello, everyone. My name is Sherimane Johnson. I am a vegan chef and wellness coach. What I'm making for you today is a fudgy sweet potato brownie. I'm making this recipe for several reasons. The egg is going to be replaced by flaxseed. The butter is replaced by tahini because this butter is a fat and tahini is also a fat. And we're going to add some great seasonings to this brownie recipe. Cinnamon, a little bit of espresso, because sometimes chocolate needs a little bit of a lift, a little bit of cayenne for a little bit of heat, and then all of the great ingredients that come with the recipe. The dark chocolate, the unsweetened cacao is great for your body, and the sesame seeds from the tahini. The brownie will be fudgy and really delicious and a very different flavor from what you're used to, but a great recipe to experiment with and try, and also a totally dairy-free, delicious dessert. So come with me to dump the dairy as we make our fudgy sweet potato brownies. All right, so we're getting started. So we've got one medium sweet potato. We need about 1 cup of sweet potato for this recipe. So I'm going to peel the sweet potato and begin to season it. My plant-based journey started when I was diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic in about 91. I was taking at the one point during my journey, I was taking as much as 1,500 milligrams of metformin 3 times a day, as well as water pills and statins. And my sugars were still 300, which is coma level. At the end of the day, I was in graduate school. I'd bring my kids home at the end of the day. We'd get home late. We'd stop at McDonald's to eat. All the things. And I wasn't getting any better. So I did some research and I found out about plant-based and living a dairy-free life, and I went on that journey and I started that. So I have found that just want to say something about my bench scraper. So I've been in tech as a project manager for about 25 years. A lot of work on the computer, a lot of keyboard work. I have carpal tunnel, and then also as a chef and doing events and stuff, I'm always using my hands. I find when I use my chef's knife, sometimes my fingers hurt. So I have found a lot of great uses for my bench knife. So it's gives you a lot of area to hold on to, so you don't have to worry about curling your fingers. It's also, and you can get you can really get a big cut or a little cut. You can do onions, you can do all kinds of vegetables, and you can get big cuts as well. So just wanted to do a PSA about the bench scraper in case you're wondering why I'm using it. I find that it's really great for my hands, and if you're over 50 like I am, sometimes you need a little bit of help. So the bench scraper is a good tool to have in your kitchen, because it helps with cutting up your vegetables and such. So we've cut up our vegetables. We're getting ready to season them with some coconut oil, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of pink sea salt. I buzzed mine in my food processor and it turned white instead of pink. And then a little bit of nutmeg. We're going to season our potatoes with these seasonings, and then we're going to put them in the oven or the air fryer to roast. So I'm going to season mine. I'm going to show you what they look like, and I'll be right back. All right, we are getting started again. This is our 1 cup of mashed sweet potatoes. They've been refrigerated overnight. They were mashed down so that they are, soft mashed consistency. We're going to put those in the brownie mix in a minute. But first we're going to start with the dry ingredients, and then we're going to add the wet ingredients to that. So the first set of ingredients is 1 cup of oat flour. So what I did is I just took some regular oats, Quaker oats, Bob's Red Mill oats, ShopRite oats, Acme oats, doesn't matter. It's oats. 1 cup of oat flour, 1 cup of oats, and then I buzzed it in my food processor to make a flour. So you don't ever really have to buy oat flour. You can just buy oats and then just make your own flour. We've got a half a teaspoon of, 3/4 a teaspoon baking powder, half a teaspoon baking soda, a teaspoon of cinnamon, a 1/4 teaspoon of espresso, a pinch of cayenne, a pinch of nutmeg, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So that's our dry ingredients. And mix that together. And then we're going to add the unsweetened cocoa. This is 3/4 of a cup of unsweetened cocoa. And all of these ingredients have various healthy benefits. Like cocoa is really good for the brain. It's good for energy. Has a little bit of protein. And everybody loves chocolate. And a great way to get in something really healthy and natural is with cocoa. Now, milk chocolate is not the same as dark chocolate. Milk chocolate is primarily sugar. Dark chocolate is primarily the cacao that the chocolate is made out of. So if you have to choose chocolate, the darker the chocolate, the better. So that's our all of our dry ingredients. Now we're going to mix our wet ingredients into a bowl and then move it to the dry. So that's our sweet potatoes. 1 cup of sweet potato. This is tahini. So tahini is going to be used in replacement of the butter. So many times in a brownie they may ask for like a 1/2 cup of butter or maybe a 1/2 cup of oil. We're going to use a 1/2 cup of tahini instead. It's a great fat, adds a very earthy flavor to the brownie. Tahini and sweet potatoes go really, really well together. So we've got a 1/2 cup of tahini and the sweet potato. I'm going to mix that together a little bit. And when you're going plant-based, you're looking for various ingredients that you can use that are different from what you would normally eat, like an egg or butter or milk. So it's a lot of ingredients out there, and you probably might not think of adding tahini and sweet potato to a brownie, but one of the things that happens when you start eating more plants is you start experimenting more on what vegetables go with what pairings go well together, like sweet potatoes with cayenne and an espresso. So it may be a little bit different than what you're used to, but it is very delicious and really, really good for you. So we've got the sweet potatoes and the tahini mixed together. This is a flax egg. So flax seed becomes very gelatinous, like this. You see that? Like the yolk of an egg. And the reason why we use egg in cooking or baking is to bind the dry with the wet, or to bind ingredients together. Primarily is what an egg is for. It also adds fat and certain amounts of protein, etc. But we can replace that with flax egg. So it's 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed to 3 tablespoons of water, and you can use water, juice, broth, depending on what your recipe is. but that's the basic recipe for a flax egg. So 1 flax egg. As I mentioned, I am, as I said, diagnosed type 2 diabetic almost 20 years ago, medicine free for 17 years. So I'm really careful about the sugar that I use. I never use white sugar or white flour. I don't use brown sugar, which is just white sugar with molasses on it. I try to use sugar that's as close to the natural way that it's born, for lack of a better word. So turbinado sugar or maple syrup or date syrup or monk fruit or agave, those are the types of sweeteners that I use. Most of the time in a brownie bake recipe or any kind of cake or whatever recipe, the sugar usually begins at a cup, which is a lot of sugar for any of us, but especially for someone who is managing their sugar. So this is 1/3 of a cup of maple syrup. And there was also, 1/3 cup of maple syrup and a little bit of vanilla, like a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. This is 1/4 of a cup of apple cider vinegar, which will help to help the brownies to rise. And then this is 2 tablespoons of coconut oil. And the coconut oil also helps as a fat. It is a replacement as well from regular oil or butter. But they're all meant to bind the oat flour and all the rest of those ingredients to the sweet potato mixture. And you just mix that up until it's all fully combined. Smells really good. It hasn't even started baking yet. And so now we are going to, that's the mixture, wet mixture. We're going to combine the wet to the dry. And it's a very thick mixture, so that will make a rather fudgy brownie. So we're just going to mix this together a little bit at a time. Might not look like it's going to mix all together, but it, chocolate can be resistant when it's trying to be combined to other things. It kind of, you have to really work it to make sure that you get all of the ingredients thoroughly combined. It'll just take a few minutes for us to mix it together. Now if you find that your mixture is dry, like this one, even though I used all the ingredients in a recipe, cooking means that you have to be able to pivot. And when you see things that don't necessarily work, you just adjust. So this brownie mixture is a little dry, and I can mention that depending on what's going on in the weather, if it's dry outside, if it's hot or cold, sometimes ingredients can be impacted by the atmosphere. So recipes are just that. It is a recipe, a sort of guidance towards a completed dish, but you have to always be open to making changes. So what I'm going to do, this is a little dry, I think. Even though it's all mixed together, I do think it doesn't have, it would take too hard to beat, it would take too long to spread, because I think it's kind of dry, for lack of a better word. So what I'm going to do is get a little bit of flax milk and just add it on the top, mix it in just a little bit, just so it breaks it up a little bit and makes it a little less compacted. And then we're going to put it inside the baking sheets. I'll just be right back. I'm back. So flax milk is a great option if you guys are looking for a milk alternative. Flax milk has about 5 grams of protein per cup, and flax seeds are generally, it's the same thing that the flax egg is made out of. Instead, they're taking the seeds and making milk from them. And flax milk is a great alternative to A lot of folks drink soy milk, or maybe almond or oat. Flax milk is a great option. Really great flavor, very neutral in flavor, and as I said, has a nice amount of protein for 1 cup of milk. So I add a little bit of flax milk. I like the consistency now. I can spread it. So I'm going to start to prepare our baking sheet and get ready to make our brownies. Alright, we've got an 8x9 pan, and we've got our parchment paper. Now, sometimes I find, well, all the time, parchment paper isn't going to just lay flat. So what I do is I cut the corners. Either cut them with a knife or tear them, depending on how much time I have and what kind of mood I'm in. I might tear it, but it's not really accurate. You'll see in a minute what it does. It just allows you to fold the flaps of the paper down in the corners so that your brownies have a sharp edge. Alright, so put the pan in, the paper in the pan. As you can see, pull these corners in, pull it down, pull the corner in, piece of paper in, pull it in all the way around. Corners are laid flat. Which is important because it'll be easier for you to pull up the whole sheet. When the brownies are done, you can just pull up this whole piece of parchment. And then also, it'll make sure that none of your brownie batter gets outside of the pan, which is better for cleanup. Alright, so we're going to put the brownie mixture in the pan, and because this is a fudgy mixture made with tahini and sweet potatoes, you have to manipulate. You have to move it a little bit in order for it to lay down in the pan. So this is a great opportunity to use gloves. If you're not using gloves, you can use a spoon and just push from the middle like this with the spoon, in case you're not using gloves, and keep going. Eventually it'll all spread out evenly. You just have to be a little bit patient. Might have to pull or take the batter off the spoon and push it into the corners with your hand, or if you have a glove, you can just push it down with your gloves all the way around, making sure that it's even and that you have pushed all the brownie batter into all the corners evenly. You just move the pan around until it is spread out evenly. And then one last move is we're going to just put a piece of parchment down just to make sure that we can have it pushed all the way to the ends. Piece of parchment will help us do that. I'm taking a piece of parchment and I'm just laying it down on the surface. Taking my fingers and going around the edges, making sure it's completely flat all the way around, and then turning it up. And there you go. There's our brownies. So we're going to put them in the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. Test them at like 17. You'll put your a toothpick into the center, and if your toothpick comes out with crumbs, it can even be just a little bit wet, because brownies will continue to cook after they come out of the oven, and you don't want them to be dry. So we'll be testing them between 17 and 25 minutes. Everybody's oven is different. And then when it comes up with a little bit of crumbs, they are done, and then you have to leave them to cool outside of the oven for 30 minutes and in the refrigerator for an hour or overnight. So we'll be back when the brownies come out of the oven. Alright, so we are back. Our brownies have been in the refrigerator for about an hour and a half, and they have set up and they're ready to cut. So let's take them out of the pan. And so we got nice crisp edges, which is why we cut the parchment paper and made sure that it was aligned. I put some sesame seeds on top of my brownie before I took it out of the oven to kind of play on the tahini vibe. So I'm going to cut these up. Now this brownie, because it has no flour, it has tahini, it has maple syrup, has flax, coconut oil. It's great for a snack at almost any time. Has flaxseed, so very little sugar, so you don't have to really feel guilty anytime about eating this brownie because it has really great ingredients. So we're going to cut them probably in about 9 pieces. The pan is a 8x8, which doesn't necessarily give you completely, what do you call it, 9 completely the same size squares, but this is just for demonstration. So if you were making them at home, you can make them bigger or smaller. But just to show you the texture of our brownie, you get some sweet potato there. If you wanted to have less, like, pieces of sweet potato, you could puree your sweet potatoes in the food processor first and then add it to your mixture. But I kind of like pieces of sweet potato like that. It gives the brownie character, in my opinion. So we have completed our sweet potato brownies made with tahini, flax egg, coconut oil. This little piece right here is this is like the piece that's left over for the chef. So that's for mine for later. Or you can also crumble these up and make a crust out of it for like maybe a brownie cheesecake. Just some sort of ideas. So there we go. Those are our sweet potato brownies made with tahini, flaxseed, coconut oil, no eggs, no milk, and no dairy, no butter. We dumped the dairy with these brownies. They are delicious and great for you. So the recipe will be provided to you. If you make it, please give me a comment and let me know how you feel about the fudgy sweet potato brownie made with tahini and all non-dairy products. Thank you again for joining us at Dump the Dairy, and here's to your better health. Have a wonderful day.